When I first moved in with Lucas, I told myself it was just temporary. 6 months max. Just until I got my own place, maybe find a boyfriend, settle into the city. But 6 months turned into a year, and Lucas never stopped being Lucas. He was everything I wasn't. Straight, loud, charming in that effortless way that made people want to tell him their secrets. He had the kind of smile that looked a little too good when he was being bad. His girlfriend, Mia, adored him. And from what I could tell, he adored her too, at least in public. We met through a mutual friend who knew I needed a room and Lucas had one. It was simple. No expectations, no weird energy. I was upfront from the start. "I'm gay, by the way," I had said. He'd shrugged. "Cool. I'm allergic to cats, so I guess we're even." We settled into a comfortable routine. I worked evenings at a bookstore and took online classes during the day. Lucas bartended weekends and worked construction during the week, which meant he was either sore, sweaty, or both by the time he got home. I noticed things. The way he'd peel off his shirt the moment he walked in, grumbling about drywall dust while scratching abs he definitely knew were impressive. The way he'd collapse next to me on the couch, legs spread wide, completely unaware, or maybe entirely aware, of the space he took up, of the way his thigh would press against mine, of how he never moved away. But I also noticed other things. Late-night arguments on the phone with Mia. Hushed voices turning into sharp tones, followed by silence. Some nights he'd come home drunk, smelling like whiskey and regret, dropping onto the couch next to me like he was trying to disappear. I didn't ask questions. I just let him exist beside me. Then things began to shift. Slowly, like gravity tilting the floor under our feet. He stopped going out as much. We started watching shows together, passing the popcorn back and forth like a quiet ritual. I'd catch him looking at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Not like a friend looks at a friend. Like he was searching for something he didn't understand. One night, while we were watching some mindless reality dating show, Lucas muttered, "They're all faking it." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the couples?" He nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. "Yeah. No way all these people are actually into each other. You can't fake real connection." It stuck with me. Not the words, but the way he said them. Like he was thinking about someone else. Maybe even me. That week, the air between us got thicker. Every word felt heavier. Every touch, even accidental, lingered longer than it should. One evening, as I passed behind him in the kitchen, he turned at the same time, and we ended up chest to chest. Neither of us moved. I could feel his breath on my face. He looked at my lips. Just for a second. Then he laughed, slapped my shoulder, and said something about needing more coffee. It would have been easier if he were homophobic, or uncomfortable, or even indifferent. But Lucas wasn't any of those things. He was warm, playful, too playful. He'd say things like, "If I was into guys, you'd be my type," and grin like it was just a joke. Except it never felt like just a joke. One night, after a few too many beers and way too much takeout, he confessed, "Mia thinks I'm emotionally unavailable." I chuckled, not sure if he was joking. "Well, are you?" He looked at me, too serious for someone buzzed. "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I just haven't been with the right person." He didn't say Mia's name. And he didn't have to. That night, I went to bed restless. My thoughts were tangled in all the wrong questions. Did he mean something by that? Was I reading into things that weren't there? Or worse, was there something real, something mutual, that we were both too afraid to name? It was around 2 a.m. when I heard his footsteps in the hallway. Slow, hesitant. He paused outside my door. And then, he walked away. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. Lucas wasn't mine. He had a girlfriend. A whole life that didn't include this twisted, quiet thing growing between us. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had already shifted, some invisible line crossed. That was the night I knew. I wasn't just imagining it. I wasn't just another gay guy crushing on a straight roommate. There was something unspoken in the way he looked at me. Something dangerous. And I was already too deep to back out. Because when your straight roommate lingers a little too long, when he stares a little too hard, when the silence between you starts to say things neither of you can, it stops being harmless. It becomes a question you can't stop asking. What if? Lucas came home late that night. I was on the couch, pretending to watch reruns, but mostly I was waiting. He walked in with a six-pack and that restless energy he always carried when things with Mia were bad. He dropped the bottles on the coffee table, kicked off his boots, and dropped onto the couch beside me with a long sigh. "She said I'm selfish," he muttered. "Told me I don't know how to love anyone but myself." I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. He wasn't really talking to me. He was unraveling, and I was the safest place to do it. "Maybe she's right," he added, cracking a beer. "I mean, I try. I do things. I show up. But sometimes I feel like I'm performing love instead of feeling it." He turned to look at me. I felt it, really felt it, in the center of my chest. "You ever feel that?" he asked. "Like you're supposed to be someone you're not, just to make someone else feel secure?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I do." That was the last real thing either of us said for a while. We drank in silence. The show kept playing. Lucas leaned back, eyes half shut, the muscles in his forearm twitching from work or tension or both. Eventually, I told him I was going to sleep. But I didn't go to my room. I curled up under a blanket on the couch, lights off, eyes closed, and let the quiet settle in. Lucas stayed beside me, sipping his beer. Minutes passed. Then, I heard him whisper something. I couldn't make it out, but the tone was soft, intimate. I thought maybe he was talking to himself. But then I felt the couch shift, the warmth of his body turning toward mine. My heartbeat spiked. His hand brushed my hair. I stayed still. Eyes closed. Breath shallow. He trailed his fingers down my jaw, slow and careful. His hand rested at the base of my neck like he was afraid to move it further, but too drawn in to pull away. "You always listen," he murmured, voice low and cracked. "You don't try to fix me. You just let me be." He moved closer. I felt his breath on my cheek, warm and uncertain. Then, God help me, his lips touched my neck. Just once. Just a whisper of a kiss. But it was enough to send a pulse through my spine. He paused there, forehead nearly pressed to mine. I could feel his conflict in the air between us. It hung there like a storm, thick and waiting. "You make me feel things I shouldn't," he whispered. I didn't move. Couldn't. If I reacted, it would be real. And maybe I didn't want it to be real, not when I knew how messy it could get. Not when Mia still existed on the other side of that story. His hand slid down to rest lightly on my waist. Not possessive. Not forceful. Just there. "I shouldn't want this," he said. "But I do." I didn't breathe. He sat like that for a while, holding something fragile between his fingertips. Me, the moment, himself. Then, just as quietly, he let go. Pulled back. Stood. I heard the floor creak as he walked to his room and shut the door behind him. Only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, heart pounding so hard it hurt. He thought I was asleep, and part of me wished I had been, because then I wouldn't have felt the way I did. Like something sacred and forbidden had cracked open inside me. Lucas, my straight roommate. Lucas with a girlfriend. Lucas, who kissed my neck when he thought no one would ever know. The weight of that truth wrapped itself around me like another blanket. It was terrifying. Electric. Addictive. This wasn't some harmless crush anymore. This wasn't me daydreaming about the impossible. He wanted me. Maybe not fully. Maybe not openly. But he wanted me. And I had let it happen. I could have stopped it. I could have opened my eyes, said his name, pushed his hand away. But I didn't. Because for a brief, quiet moment in the dark, I got to feel wanted by the one man I couldn't have. I didn't sleep that night. I replayed every touch, every word, over and over again. I wondered if he would talk about it in the morning. If he would pretend it never happened. if he would break down and confess everything. But mostly I wondered what it meant. For him. For me. For whatever this thing was that lived between us now, this unspoken, pulsing truth neither of us could keep buried. The worst part? I wanted it to happen again. Lucas avoided me for 2 days. He wasn't cruel about it, just absent. He left early, came back late, claimed extra shift, claimed he was tired, claimed everything but what we both knew he was running from. And I let him. I let the silence grow roots, let the air thicken with unspoken truths, because I didn't know what I'd do if I confronted him and he denied it all, denied me. But on the third night the pressure broke. He came home just after 9. No booze, no girlfriend's voice trailing behind on speakerphone. Just Lucas, tense, quiet, barely meeting my eyes as he walked past me into the kitchen. "Hey," I said, voice low but steady. He paused, back still turned. "Hey." I stood from the couch. "Can we talk?" He didn't turn around. Just braced his hands on the counter and nodded. "Yeah. Yeah, okay." I walked up behind him, not too close, but close enough that he'd feel me there. "You remember what you did the other night?" Silence. Then, barely audible, "I thought you were asleep." "I wasn't." He turned slowly, guilt flashing across his face like a bruise. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was drunk and I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't trying to." "Lucas," I interrupted, calm but sharp, "don't insult me by pretending you don't know exactly what you were doing." His jaw flexed. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." "You didn't hurt me," I said. "You confused the hell out of me. But you didn't hurt me." He exhaled, dragging his fingers through his hair. "I didn't plan it. It just happened. And I hate that I liked it." That cracked something open. "You liked it," I repeated, stepping closer. "Then why are you acting like it didn't happen?" He looked at me, and there it was again, that flicker of desire, of fear, of everything he couldn't say. "Because I have a girlfriend," he whispered. "Because I've never wanted a guy before. Because I don't know what the hell this makes me." "It doesn't have to make you anything," I said. "You felt something. So did I." Lucas leaned back against the counter, eyes locked on mine like he was trying to read a map he didn't recognize. "It's not just that night," he admitted. "I've thought about it before. About you. About us. I told myself it was just curiosity. Or loneliness. But it's more than that." I swallowed hard. "Then what are we doing, Lucas?" He stepped forward, hesitation painted across his face, but his body moved with purpose. "I don't know. But I don't want to lie to myself anymore." There was barely a breath between us when he said it. And then he kissed me. Not like the ghost of a kiss on the neck. Not like an accident in the dark. This was intentional. Desperate. His hand cupped my face, and I didn't hesitate. I kissed him back, fingers threading through his shirt, pulling him in like I'd been waiting for this exact moment since the day I moved in. He groaned into my mouth, and it shook me. How much he wanted this. How much he wanted me. We stumbled back into the living room, tangled in limbs and breath and years of repression. His lips found my neck, my jaw, my chest. I unbuttoned his shirt with shaking hands, each layer falling like a lie he didn't want to live in anymore. We didn't make it to the bedroom. We didn't need to. On the couch, in the dim glow of the TV screen, we crossed the line we both knew we'd never uncross. And it wasn't rough or angry or full of shame, it was tender, urgent, human. After, we lay in silence, his hand resting on my stomach, mine on his chest, both of us too full of everything to speak. But the moment eventually had to end. He sat up slowly, pulling his shirt back on like he was putting armor between us. "I don't know what this means," he said, not looking at me. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." "You don't have to decide anything right now," I said softly. But I knew what he was going to do. Because the next morning, I heard his voice in the kitchen, laughing softly on the phone. "Mia." He didn't bring it up again. Didn't mention the kiss. Or the couch. or the way he had whispered my name like a prayer. He was back to Lucas, the one who kept his secrets buried behind charm and deflection. The one who could make me feel like I was the only one in the room, and then act like nothing ever happened. I told myself I was okay with it, but every time he walked past me, every time our hands brushed, every time he laughed at my jokes like he didn't remember the sound of my moans in his ear, it cracked something deeper. He had come to me like a confession, and left like a sin. Lucas avoided me for 2 days in our own apartment. He wasn't cruel about it, stopped just touching me, absent, not in big, left early, dramatic came ways, back late, but claimed in the little ones shift that mattered. Claimed he was more tired, casual brushes claimed of the everything hand but what we both remote. Knew he was no running more leaning from, in too close and I let on him. The couch. I let no the more silence teasing smiles that lingered let just the air thicken too with long. Unspoken truths. He didn't have to say because I didn't know what I'd do was if I confronted him, and he denied Mia was back in the picture in full force. But on the third night, the pressure once broke. A sound I came home heard just after 9. Now no echoes through the girlfriend's like voice trailing behind. She started staying over again, just Lucas, leaving her earrings tense, in the bathroom, quiet, barely meeting my eyes over as he walked past me. And I had to sit there, pretending. Hey, I said, pretending I hadn't tasted him. He paused, that I didn't still feel his mouth against mine. I stood from the couch. Pretending I hadn't felt him fall apart in my arms, just braced only his hands for him on the to counter rebuild his walls brick by fucking brick the next morning. I walked up behind him. He was avoiding me, not worse, too close. He was avoiding close himself enough that he'd feel living with Lucas had become like sharing a room the other night with a loaded gun. Silence. Every moment felt barely like it could go off at any second. I thought you were asleep. The tipping point came one rainy Thursday. He turned slowly. Mia had left flashing across his face. I was making coffee in the kitchen. I'm sorry when Lucas came in. I was drunk and half asleep. I don't know what I was thinking. His hair was a mess. I wasn't trying to. The waistband of his boxers Lucas, riding low on his hips, calm but sharp. He paused when don't he saw me. Don't insult me by pretending you don't just know one exactly damn second what you were doing. His mask slipped. His jaw flexed. And I saw it. I wasn't trying to hurt you. The confusion. You didn't hurt me. The guilt. I said. Morning. You confused the hell out of me. Didn't kill me to pretend. But you didn't hurt me. He nodded. He exhaled, rubbing the back dragging of his fingers through his hair. Didn't think you'd be home. I didn't plan it. Didn't think you still cared if I was. And I hate that I liked flinch. That cracked something open. He walked past me and poured his own cup of coffee, closer, keeping his back turned like the coward like it didn't happen. I leaned against the counter, and there it was again. What now, that Lucas? Flicker of desire, we just play house while you sneak around with your feelings in the dark. Because I have a girlfriend, he didn't answer. He whispered. Do you because even regret I've never wanted a guy before? Or do you because regret I don't that I know what the hell this makes me? That did it. It doesn't have to make you anything. Of course I regret it. You felt something. Not because of you. So did I. Because I let it happen without knowing what the hell I was doing. Eyes locked on mine like he was trying to read a map he didn't recognize. You kissed me. It's not just that night. You chose me. I've thought about pretending like it was some kind of mistake. About us. I'm not a phase, I told myself it was just curiosity. He ran a hand over his loneliness. I never said you were. But you're acting like it. Then what are we doing, stretched Lucas? Between us like a chasm. He stepped forward, and then he said the one thing I wasn't ready to hear. But his body moved with purpose. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. But I don't want to lie to myself anymore. He didn't answer. There was barely a breath between us when he said it. We stared at each other, and then he kissed me. Two people standing in the wreckage of something beautiful and broken. Not like an accident. We both knew the truth. This was intentional. And he didn't have the strength his hand to let go of the life he already built. I didn't hesitate. Even if part of him was screaming for fingers more. Threading through his shirt. I can't keep doing pulling this, him in like said, I'd been waiting shaking. For this exact moment. You can't come home to her and live in my silence. He groaned like into my mouth, and it shook me. I'm not your secret, Lucas. How much you wanted me. I'm real. We stumbled back into the living room. He looked at me, tangled in limbs and breath. I swear he was about to say everything. His lips found my neck, my jaw, my chest. But instead, I unbuttoned his shirt with shaking hands. That night, I started falling like a lie he didn't want to live in anymore. Didn't ask why. We didn't make it to the bedroom. Excuses. We didn't need to. Maybe because we both knew that if I stayed, glow of the TV screen. We crossed the line we both knew when you're the one left hiding under someone else's denial. And it wasn't rough or angry or full of shame. The last thing I took was the coffee mug, urgent. He always used when we talked late into the night. We lay in silence. It was chipped his hand resting on my stomach. Useless, really. Mine on his chest. But I couldn't leave it behind. Both of us too full of everything stood in the doorway as I shouldered my bag. But the moment eventually had to end. His arms were crossed. He sat up slowly. Pulling his shirt back on like he was putting armor between us. He said, I don't know what this means. So am I. Not looking I walked past him, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And just
You don't
before
have
I
to
turned the
decide
corner,
anything
I
right
heard
now,"
him say my
I
name.
said softly.
I didn't look
But
back,
I knew what he was
because
going
this
to do.
wasn't a story
Because
about
the next
a man
morning,
changing
I
for
heard
love.
his voice in
This
the
was
kitchen,
a story about
laughing
choosing
softly
yourself
on the phone.
when someone else
Mia.
is too afraid
He
to.
didn't bring it
He
up
stayed
again.
with her, didn't
Maybe
mention
because
the
it
kiss,
was easy,
or the couch,
maybe because
or the
it
way
was
he
familiar,
had whispered my name,
or maybe
like a
because
prayer.
the version of
He was
himself
back
he
to
was
Lucas,
with me scared
the
him
one who
more
kept
than
his
the lie
secrets
he'd
buried
been living.
behind charm
But I
and
left,
deflection.
not because
the one
I
who
didn't
could
love
make me
him,
feel like
but
I was
because
the
I
only one
finally
in the room,
realized I loved
and
me
then
more.
act like
And
nothing ever
sometimes
happened.
the most honest
I told
kind
myself
of love
I was
is
okay
the one
with
that
it,
lets go.
but every time he walked past me, every time our hands brushed, every time he laughed at my jokes like he didn't remember the sound of my moans in his ear, it cracked something deeper. He had come to me like a confession, and left like a sin,